Our topic for this Ostomy Academy is Aging with an Ostomy or Continent Diversion, How to Be Prepared. The presentation will cover the challenges posed by the changes of aging and the impact of those medical conditions. Guest speakers will be UOAA Advocacy Manager Jeanine Gleba with Sue Mueller, who is a retired WOCN and a current UOAA Advocacy Committee Co-Chair. They are going to share what they have learned in their advocacy work and tools and resources that UOAA has created to help people prepare for their future. So I'd love to bring out Jeanine and Sue now. Hello, guys. Hi.
Hello. Hello.
So Jeanine has over 15 years of advocacy experience. She is a nationally recognized advocate. She's been working in the role of advocacy manager at UOAA for 9 years and ensures the nonprofit organization's advocacy goals are achieved. She is also currently the immediate past president, chairperson of the Digestive Disease National Coalition. Welcome, Jeanine.
Hello.
Sue is a retired WOC nurse who worked for many years as both a nurse and nurse case manager in a wide variety of healthcare settings, with a focus on advocating for people with chronic illness and disability. Sue is a colostomy and since 2004, and she served on the UOAA Advocacy Committee since 2017, and currently serves as the Advocacy Committee Co-Chairperson. So we are super excited to have you here, and we will let you take it away.
Okay. Great. I'm assuming everyone can see the slide deck. Thank you, Amy, Lee, and Steve, for the great introductions. And welcome to everyone that's listening this evening. First, before I kick off, I have to give a shout out to Sue. She has been a volunteer, and she's been volunteering with me, sharing her talents and knowledge for 8 years. So I greatly appreciate your dedication. We'd be nowhere without you, honestly. Okay, let's go to the first slide. Okay. So before we actually dive into the whole presentation that Sue and I have worked on, ironically, this past week, I came across this study that was just released, and it's extremely appropriate for what we're going to be talking about tonight. And I think it speaks volumes on the way things are happening regarding long-term care. So you can take a few moments to look at those bullets, and I'll tell you that in August 2024, it was the University of Michigan National Poll on Healthy Aging. They asked a national sample of adults age 50 and older about their experiences with and views on planning and preferences for long-term care. This poll found that many adults, older adults in the United States, do not think they will need long-term care, and many have not taken steps to plan for future long-term care needs. Overall, only 45% of adults age 65 and older believe they will likely need long-term care in the future, whereas national statistics suggest that many more will actually use it. I also thought the last two bullets were very interesting, in particular that only half of the older adults have discussed their long-term care plans, options with someone such as a spouse, child, friend, relative, or provider. So just keep those things in mind as you're listening tonight.
Okay, hi. Welcome to Aging with an Ostomy. We are happy to be here tonight to talk about the Advocacy Committee's journey with the topic Aging with an Ostomy. What started the UOAA Advocacy Committee on the path to aging with an ostomy was a call from the family of an elderly couple in New Mexico. The couple had been living independently in an apartment when the ostomy member of the couple began to need assistance managing her ostomy. The couple looked forward to moving to the assisted living area, but instead were told the husband was welcome, but the ostomy wife had to go to a nursing home for her care. We then went on a crash course in assisted living facility admissions policy and the rules governing assisted living facilities, and we had only just begun. It worked out in the end. The couple was not split up. They found an assisted living facility willing to provide real assistance and moved. Good ending for them, but we wondered if other couples were split up over this issue, or even worse, were ostomates placed in nursing homes prematurely? Over the next few years, we explored what people aging with an ostomy were facing as they age and started by researching assisted living facilities. Jeanine will now talk about the journey we took.
So as Sue mentioned, we've been working on this advocacy effort for years. It's an ongoing effort. This isn't something that's going to change overnight. And really, it's going to depend on people advocating for themselves and knowing what to say and knowing certain things that we're going to talk about later on. So over the years, though, we have learned several important things. We've learned that there's a lot of confusion about what ostomy care consists of, when you need a healthcare provider and when you don't. For example, some assisted living facilities in the United States mistakenly believe that all ostomy care is skilled care. Later on, we're going to define what skilled care is. In our outreach efforts, we learned that some assisted living facilities might be apprehensive, maybe even fearful of ostomy care, but with education and awareness, we can make them more comfortable. One state assisted living facility association said that it probably isn't so much a concern with changing or emptying pouches or cleaning the stoma area. They believe assisted living facilities are probably more concerned with skin assessment to identify infections or complications and not having properly trained staff to do it. We have learned that state and federally regulated facilities can refuse admission to people because they cannot meet their needs. We also think many admission personnel and healthcare providers know about ostomies, but may not know a lot about day-to-day living with an ostomy. We know that the ability to self-advocate or to have an advocate at your side is extremely beneficial. So as Sue mentioned, our initial focus was people living with an ostomy and assisted living facilities. So since we started that, we've done many things, including taking the lead on this effort and bringing this effort and this issue about assisted living facilities not admitting or retaining people with an ostomy to the CWOCN Society, and they've become an active partner in this effort. Together, we developed a frequently asked questionnaire sheet, which I'm going to discuss more later and show you. We also contacted the National Center for Assisted Living and sent a joint UOAA WOCN Society cover letter with the facts to each state's association for assisted living facilities to educate and raise awareness about admitting people with an ostomy. UOAA also developed an ostomy self-management checklist, which Sue is going to explain more later. UOAA also hosted and recorded a webinar on aging in place focused on assisted living facilities. So if you really want more information on assisted living facilities, we recommend you watch that webinar that's available on ostomy.org. This presentation will also be available online after tonight. So then we changed our focus to people living with a continent diversion, such as a Coke pouch. And last year, Sue and I met with nurses who care for these types of diversions and people living with a continent diversion. We learned that many have not yet considered the future and that their care needs are very different from those just living with an ostomy. So now we're working on new resources for that population.
Hi, in our presentation tonight, we will not attempt to cover all aspects of aging with an ostomy. What we will discuss are the changes of aging that affect management of your ostomy, the changing needs for some older people, and tools and resources to meet those needs. We will tell you that we found that there are myths and misunderstandings about what ostomy care requires, and that people have a hard time explaining what they need and little understanding about where to seek care. Many families have called UOAA because they had no idea what their family member needed to manage their ostomy, and the family member couldn't tell them. Other calls were about problems finding care. We will speak about ostomies and about continent diversions. Many people are not familiar with the term continent diversion. Continence is the ability to control urination and defecation. Therefore, an ostomy is considered an incontinent diversion, as a stoma has no sphincter and no control of output. A continent diversion is a surgically created internal reservoir which diverts stool or urine from the usual body pathways to the reservoirs for elimination. Continent diversions utilize surgically created valves or pre-existing sphincters to create continence. Some examples of continent diversions are BCIR pouches, J pouches, Koch pouches, Indiana pouches, and Neo bladders. Some of these reservoirs require catheterization with a tube to empty. There are similarities and differences with managing ostomies and continent diversions, and significant differences that impact care. Next slide. You're ahead of me. Okay. No, go back. Sorry. We are aging every day. Life expectancy is increasing, yet we live in a country that reveres youth and assigns little value to older people. So it's not surprising to learn that we are reluctant to assume the label old or to spend any time preparing for the challenges we may face. We have seen ostomates who are experiencing problems related to ostomy self-care who did not receive appropriate help because the problem was not assessed properly or because they could not explain what they needed. What are your answers to these questions? What are some of the things that may challenge your ability to self-manage? Next slide. Medical conditions that could affect your vision are diabetic neuropathy, macular degeneration, and changes caused by stroke or other brain injury. These conditions could make your vision blurry, or you could lose parts of your field of vision. You could have double vision. This would affect your ability to read, to use a computer, to use a phone, to cut a wafer, place a wafer, clean around your stoma, or apply your pouch. What can help? A voice command system like Siri or Alexa could help with phone and computer use. Using pre-cut wafers or ordering a device to cut your wafers would assist with wafer cutting. With practice and assistance, you could learn to clean around the stoma and empty a pouch by feel. If centering a two-piece appliance becomes difficult, you could switch to a one-piece that you could fold in half and place at the base of your stoma. Collaborate with specialists at low vision treatment centers and with a certified ostomy care nurse to find other options. Next slide. Arthritis, the effects of a stroke or brain injury, or Parkinson's disease can all affect your ability to walk to the bathroom and get on and off the toilet. If you have decreased endurance from chronic conditions, or you need to bring oxygen with you, getting to the bathroom becomes a chore. Getting in and out of bed at night to empty your pouch is also a major concern. If your hand mobility is affected, you could have difficulty performing many tasks. For example, changing your appliance, changing pouches, opening and closing a clip, unrolling and opening Velcro-type closures, catheterizing a stoma, connecting a night drainage bag, and cleaning your equipment. Therapy with a physical or occupational therapist is essential to assist with upper and lower extremity motor concerns. They help you recover function, teach you new strategies, and recommend assistive devices. Sometimes changing your clothing style is helpful. A consultation with an ostomy nurse is helpful if you need to consider new ostomy products. All of these healthcare professionals can also help teach caregivers. Next slide. Neuropathies and chronic pain can also affect your ability to ambulate, apply and remove an ostomy appliance, empty a pouch, and self-catheterize. These challenges are also the kind of thing that benefits from consultation with occupational and physical therapists. Next slide. Cognitive problems affect the thinking, problem-solving part of ostomy and continent diversion management. What do I eat and drink? Am I dehydrated? Do I have a blockage? Cognitive impairments can be caused by many things and range from mild to severe. They could be standalone or combined with any or several other impairments. You could have a problem with memory or be unable to understand situations. You could have problems with communication. A fix for a mild memory problem could be as simple as marking the day you irrigate or change your pouch on a calendar. You could set an alarm to remind you to empty your pouch regularly. A caregiver could schedule prompts to cue you to empty or change your pouch. A severe cognitive problem could render you unable to perform or direct your care. It is especially helpful to enlist the assistance of therapy when you have cognitive issues. In this case, A speech therapist is a welcome addition, as speech therapists deal with cognitive problems as well as speech. Occupational therapists are also an asset with thinking and tasks of daily living. Next slide. So there are challenges, but there are also resources and solutions. Everyone's situation is unique, and solutions can be found by trying different things until you find what works for you. The self-management checklist was created as a tool to help families in situations where the person with an ostomy could not explain where there was a problem with self-care. The Advocacy Committee has also created a self-management checklist for people with continent diversions. This is in the review stage and will be released soon. In addition to helping families, the ostomy checklist can also be used by an ostomate to identify a problem or to explain to a healthcare professional what care is needed. The checklist breaks ostomy care into components. There are both thinking tasks and doing tasks involved with managing an ostomy. After you identify the areas you need assistance, you can proceed with finding resources and help. So what do you do when you've completed the checklist, utilized resources, and find that you need additional assistance in the home or in a facility? The next step is understanding how healthcare and the care assistance system works, how they define needs. Jeanine will now discuss need definition.
Okay, thanks, Sue. So how does the healthcare system define needs? So first of all, skilled care is defined as a type of healthcare given when skilled nursing or rehabilitation staff is needed to manage, observe, and evaluate care. So any service that could be safely done by a non-medical person or by oneself without the supervision of a nurse isn't considered skilled care. The other type of care is something called custodial care. This is also known as unskilled care, non-skilled care, or personal care. An example of personal care are things like help with activities of daily living, such as bathing, dressing, using the bathroom, and eating. These things are things that could be done safely and reasonably without professional skills or training. So an important thing that we learned in all of our research over the years is that the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, considers ostomy maintenance a personal care service, meaning it does not require the skills of qualified technical or professional personnel. So all of those assisted living facilities that say ostomy care is a skilled care, this is ammunition to say, no, it's not. The regulation specifies that personal care services include, but are not limited to, general maintenance care of colostomy and ileostomy, and this would also include urostomy.
Where you receive care is determined by whether your needs are skilled or unskilled. Skilled care is provided by a registered nurse or a licensed practical nurse who are licensed healthcare providers. Personal care, also called custodial care or unskilled care, is provided by nurses' aides who are non-licensed healthcare professionals. There are different levels of nurses' aides. The roles of nurses and nurses' aides are defined in each state's Nurse Practice Act. Emptying a pouch is personal care, similar to toileting assistance. Assessing skin around a stoma, problem-solving a pouching problem, and catheterizing a stoma are examples of skilled care. Next slide.
So, for most people, they could stay in their home, for the rest of their lives. But then there might come a point in time where you need to consider, as you age, where you will live. So one option is an assisted living facility, and they're defined there on the slide. This is where in our research, we have learned that assisted living facilities are regulated at the state level, and that each state has their own unique regulations and vary widely from very specific detail regulations to very general regulations. All states are very clear that all facilities can refuse admission to anyone whose needs cannot be met by the facility. It gives the flexibility for the facility to not admit or retain anyone for any service they don't provide. So if a facility doesn't want to provide ostomy care, they don't have to. Some facilities may accept or retain ostomates only if they are able to perform the self-care. Some states mention ostomy care in their regulations and others do not. An assisted living facility is considered your home, and you can receive the same services that you would receive in your home, such as private home care and hospice. UOAA cannot specifically address each state's issues. It's just too varied across the country, and we're too small of an organization with limited resources. So education and self-advocacy remains the best course of action. And now that we have the proper resources, when someone contacts our office with issues, we can give some guidance and help them. So we really want you to be prepared so that you're not placed in a nursing home prematurely or inappropriately if you don't need that level of care. So we encourage you to use the resources we've created to get the answers you need. We recommend you utilize the fact sheet that UOAA created in partnership with the CWOCN Society. It was developed specifically for assisted living facilities to dispel the myths that we've been hearing over the years and provide education about the needs of people with ostomies. So for example, some of the myths that we heard from assisted living facilities that were not accepting or retaining people with an ostomy are, an ostomy is an open wound and requires a sterile procedure. Another myth is ostomy pouches frequently leak. Changing an ostomy pouching system is an invasive procedure. So we dispel those myths in this facts document. The fact sheet also answers the question of when skilled ostomy care is needed. Another option is long-term care facilities, such as a nursing home. Long-term care services help meet health and personal care needs like bathing, dressing, and eating when a person can no longer perform them independently. In our research, we've learned that long-term care facilities are federally regulated. Once again, CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, is the federal agency that oversees long-term care facilities, including nursing homes that receive funds from Medicare and/or Medicaid. Regulations specifically require that any long-term care facility must provide ostomy care if they participate in receiving funding to cover the cost through Medicare or Medicaid. Their actual regulation and definition is, for ostomy care, the facility must ensure that residents who require colostomy, urostomy, or ileostomy services receive such care consistent with professional standards of practice, the comprehensive person-centered care plan, and the resident's goals and preferences. So yes, nursing homes will accept ostomates. They are prepared to provide services for basic ostomy care. However, they may not be prepared the way we would like them to be for complex situations or complicated ostomies. But if they can't provide the proper care needed, they can transport you to an outpatient ostomy clinic. You most likely would not be able to bring in a private nurse due to contractual reasons in that type of facility. And on a side note, we're also very aware that there is a lack of access to ostomy nurses in the United States. That's a whole other separate issue, and UOAA has done a lot of things to increase access, but that would be a whole separate type of session. Anyway, ultimately, your needs dictate your choices for where you will live and receive care. Another note that I did want to make is that UOAA does not maintain a list of facilities that accepts or retains people with an ostomy. So if anyone, say from the state of Florida, calls our 800 number and asks for the places in Florida they could live that would accept someone with an ostomy, we don't have that kind of information. We don't maintain that kind of list.
Okay, where can you get long-term care and who pays for it? If you need assistance in your home, you can receive it. If it can be paid for, if it is available where you live, and if it can meet your needs. What I mean by this is that this care is expensive and adds up quickly. You might not be able to find workers for the hours you need. If you don't live in an easily accessible area, it might be difficult to obtain. If you need help emptying at night, it's an additional challenge. You will also need a backup plan if the help is not available at the last minute. In this scenario, you make the arrangements with a nursing agency to provide the care you need and the hours you need it. This is different than Medicare home care. Medicare home care provides for intermittent visits a few times a week for a short time with specific goals for care. Medicaid home care is different for each state. Usually the basic steps are you apply for Medicaid, meet the criteria, and are approved, and you must obtain a doctor's order for home care. You are then assessed by a nurse who discusses the care you need with you, creates your plan of care, and recommends the hours you will need. These hours will need approval and are influenced in part by how well you explain your care needs. VA-sponsored programs follow similar procedures, and veterans have to have an honorable discharge. If you have long-term care insurance, you need to refer to your long-term care contract and what it provides. Assisted living facilities can be a welcome bridge between home care and a long-term care facility. Finding an assisted living facility that provides for your needs is important, which is why we recommend research to find the right fit. We mentioned earlier that the Healthy Aging poll found that 62% of people polled thought that Medicare would pay for nursing home care. Medicare does not pay for long-term care. Medicare pays for short-term skilled care in a skilled nursing facility. A long-term care facility or residential care facility is where people receive custodial care, usually until the end of their lives. I know this is confusing. Unfortunately, the term nursing home is used to describe both skilled nursing facilities and long-term care facilities. And also, many facilities are mixed, with 2 hallways designated as skilled care and 2 hallways designated for long-term care. We should drop the label nursing home and refer to facilities as skilled nursing facilities and long-term residential care facilities. Next slide. Next slide. Oh, there's the next slide. We have shown you one aspect of aging with an ostomy, and I hope we have convinced you that preparation goes a long way with successfully meeting the challenges that you may face. We think these tips will help get you started. The first step is to write down your ostomy care routine in detail. Spend some time on it. Then you won't have to do it over and over. What that means is you write down everything. The number of times you empty, if you have a special routine when you shower or bathe, what you eat and don't eat and why, what you do if you have gas, or how you know you have a kidney infection or pouchitis or a blockage. Explain how you meet your hydration and electrolyte needs. If you don't do this, somebody else is going to decide what your routine is. Number 2, get a care buddy, someone who can advocate for you if you can't. This doesn't have to be a person who will take over your routine, but someone who knows you and can explain your care if you can't. This doesn't mean we expect everybody's going to get dementia and not be able to explain their needs. But it's easy enough to fall or become sick temporarily and need someone to advocate. So give your care buddy a copy of your routine and review it with them. Do this now. Store it with your advance directives and will. 3, review your present situation. Have you experienced any recent problems? Are things not working the way they used to? Are you experiencing leaks or trouble with pouch fit? Review the self-management checklist. You might benefit from a consultation with a certified ostomy nurse or ostomy specialist. 4, if you have an ostomy, consider getting a medic alert ID, especially if you have a complex situation with short bowel and high output or anything out of the ordinary. If you have a continent diversion and catheterize, please get some form of medical alert ID now. And take advantage of the systems with extra information storage like a USB drive. Lastly, obtain a durable medical power of attorney or a designated healthcare agent who can speak for you if you can't. Next slide.
Okay, so if you need or even just want to live in a facility, we really suggest that, like, once again, you determine your medical needs and other needs and wants, such as your budget, what your financial situation is, amenities that you are interested in having in the facility, such as a pool, the type of housing, the location. You do kind of need to be flexible when you're preparing these things. And Sue can talk a little bit, say, for example, if you live in a rural area, you want to touch on that, Sue?
If you live in a rural area.
And some locations you might not have access to the type of place you want to.
Oh, well, here's the thing. People they tend to choose a home that's close to where their family is. And there's nothing wrong with that. But go on Medicare.gov site and check out what the government has rated the homes as. For instance, where I live, right in my general vicinity, the homes are rated a 1 out of 5. 5 is the highest and 1 is the lowest. So if I had to go use a nursing home, I would not be going close to home. And you may also, you can also increase your awareness about the choice and these homes and where they are. You may only need a short stay in a facility for rehab from a knee or a hip replacement. And you can totally manage your ostomy, but it helps to know what's available before you get handed a list of facilities to choose from. You can also check out facilities when you visit people, and use our resources if you are considering a move to assisted living.
Right. So we highly recommend that you research facilities and read the online reviews, develop a pro and cons chart, and also visit the facilities. They may not actually look like the pictures you see online. And even when you get there, I speak from experience, they might look beautiful on the outside. The lobby is lovely. You go back through those doors to where the patient rooms are. It's a whole other story in some of these places. And even, again, speaking from experience, my parents were in a 5-star facility that was rated on Medicare, and I can tell you the quality of care that was going on at 2 a.m. was not a 5. So it's just really important to again, see what other people have thought if they had to go there and get that kind of information. And then when you are considering, possibly living there, be very upfront with the facilities on your unique needs and medical conditions, and then make the inquiries to see if they can meet your needs and if they will admit and retain you or your loved one. So we have some key takeaway points from the whole presentation. They're outlined there on the slide. Again, hopefully, you don't need these things, but it's always good to have that plan B just in case. So that's all we're trying to say is, consider being prepared and being, flexible. Don't start looking when you need it, because at that time you might not even be able to do it. You might not, you might be unconscious and someone has to make these decisions for you. Or you might not have the motor skills to be able to get to different facilities to check them out. So it's just, just start looking, when you're able to and when you're interested into. We're not saying tomorrow start looking at places, but it's just a matter of having planting the seed in your head to consider start planning. And again, do the research now before you need it, so that if there comes a time when you need a higher level of care, you are prepared. This way you can have a say in where you live versus before someone has to make that decision for you. And like that one bullet in the very beginning from the poll, please communicate your wants and needs with someone, in your family or a friend. Just don't keep it all to yourself. Sometimes it is difficult and there is an emotional component. All right, so these are the resources that we have available on our website. The Ostomy Self-Management Checklist. We just recently published a terrific article on medical alert IDs, the assisted living facility facts handout. We also created an aging in place resources handout that has all different websites and organizations to help you. And then, of course, there's the Ostomy and Continent Diversion Patient Bill of Rights. We also suggest that you consider working with professionals such as financial planners, elder law attorneys, and geriatric care managers, because they can assist older adults and their families in understanding their long-term care options and developing personalized long-term care plans. Another resource that we wanted to share, this is more for people with a Continent Diversion, the Quality Life Association. They're another nonprofit organization who support people living with a Continent Diversion. They have a terrific website also. Most of their information, though, is only available to members only. But if you are a member, they have a Dear Emergency Doctor letter, which is really good should you ever need something like that. And then coming soon, like Sue mentioned, we have a Continent Diversion self-management checklist, which we'll be releasing soon. We're working on an advanced care plan for ostomies or continent diversions, and we're also in the process of releasing a rebranded patient bill of rights. Those are just some references where we got some of the information that we spoke about. And now we will open it up to question and answers. So I think Ed's gonna take it down. Thank you.
Here we are. Thank you all. That was a great presentation. You're getting lots of good feedback from the comments. We had Julie Bickford who said, forewarned is forearmed. I love that, Julie. That's exactly how I feel. And Robert Borges also commented how important this learning experience is to be able to provide this information that he hadn't previously considered. So we've gotten a lot of comments like that. Just speaking candidly, there's very few things that keep me up at night. I have had my ileostomy for 13 years, and this is one of them. How I'm going to age and how I'm going to be able to do that, with dignity and not be discriminated. Thank you for sharing kind of the origin story of how this journey started for you guys, because I mean that couple that reached out to you and they were going to be separated, and it's really a discrimination. And so I'm so glad we have these resources now to give our fellow ostomates.
Yeah, and we have had quite a few calls over the years, and we have shared the information with them, and it has definitely helped people in their self-advocacy.
And it will continue. It will continue to help. Steve, any thoughts on the presentation that you had?
Well, Sue and Jeanine, you take a big sigh of relief now that it's over, because I know you were concerned, but I thought you did a great job. The thing that kind of hit me is I went through this in a different tone just recently. I mean, my mom at 95 just actually passed in January, and we hadn't done any of this stuff because she was doing so well living at home. And boom, just before Christmas, she goes in the hospital. And we ended up trying to get her into a rehab facility, which was a real challenge. And then she was only there 36 hours and then turned around back to the hospital and died a few days later. But my point is, I think one of the things that Jeanine advocates in her role is that you've got to advocate for yourself. And so as I'm looking at some of the things on here, some of the comments that people made, like taking a video of yourself changing your ostomy, so that friends and family can help. Sue mentioned that, which I think is tremendous. As some of you know, I was a Comitech rep my last 8 years that I worked. And I went into nursing homes quite often, and it is a challenge. There's no question about that. So the more that you can provide information to them about what care you need, the better off you're going to be. And there's no WCNs in most nursing homes. So the fact that the more you can be seen self-reliant, the better off you are. But we reach a point where we can't. I got called into a nursing home once for a gentleman who'd had a stroke and now no longer had use of his right hand. So, I mean, think about that, folks, trying to change your ostomy appliance with one hand. I mean, I messed with it just trying to see what it was like and to try to give him some challenges. But I think trying to think about this stuff in the future is certainly a good idea. And Jeanine and Sue, that's what kind of, I think the gist of what you're saying is pre-planning, trying to be thinking about what you may be needing. But it's not just necessarily from an ostomy perspective, but you may have a family member that you may have to go through what I went through. And a lot of these things are very true, no matter whether you're talking about an ostomy or not. Exactly. I'm sure, Jeanine, that's where a lot of your experience came from, because obviously your parents didn't have ostomies. However, these were some of the challenges you dealt with. So it's like anything, pre-planning, but being an advocate for yourself, I think is one of the things that I come home with is trying to do as much as you can. And that video, I think, is a great idea. And it's something I haven't done as of yet. I jokingly now, my wife always said I've had mine come soon to be 29 years. And I remember her saying to me, my God, you're going to have to learn how to do this by yourself. And I did. But now she has no clue. I mean, as to what I'm doing and that kind of thing. So I think we need to have some of that kind of refresher. But so anyway, those are some of my thoughts at this point in time. So Liz, have we got any more questions that have come up?
Yes, Renee Davis. She says, prudent to write down any emergency, where to do, hospital or urgent care, and medical team phone numbers. Oh, she's asking, should you add that to your to-do list? What do you guys think, Jeanine and Sue?
Oh, yeah. I don't think you can over-prepare, really.
Yeah, especially if you do have a preference where a particular hospital does actually have an ostomy nurse, you'd probably want to go to that hospital. So I don't think it could hurt having this information at all.
Speaking of ostomy nurses, I had a question that came up in my mind when you were talking about long-term care facilities. So did I hear you right that you said that, and I know it's state by state, but most long-term care facilities, you can't get outside nursing consults? Did I hear that right?
Well, here's the thing. It really depends on each facility and what their policy and procedures are. Okay. So, and it may be negotiable or may not. You certainly, some nursing homes we know actually have contracts with certified ostomy nurses, and they're few and far between, I'm pretty sure. And in that case, they already have a contractual arrangement with an ostomy nurse. So that would be an easy situation. So if you find something like that, you might want to put that on your question list if they do, because frankly, a lot of ostomy nurses also do wound care. And so a lot of nursing homes are doing wound care in their skilled section. So if they already have a contract with somebody to do wounds and ostomies, that's an easy fix. I believe in a skilled nursing facility, in the short-term side of it, you can go to an ostomy clinic because that's considered like a doctor's appointment. Okay. I'm not so sure that is a given in the residential care facilities. So you would have to look at each one and chat with the people and see what you can come up with. A lot of places are not. I think they would be probably more open for you to go to an outpatient clinic than to bring somebody in, because of they can't have other healthcare professionals come into their facility unless they have a contractual relationship. So I think that's the bottom line.
Yeah,
but in an assisted living facility,
that's different. Assisted living is your home, and anybody can come in. I mean, you have to chat with them, but your assisted living place is your home, so you can receive Medicare home care, you can receive hospice. There's lots of things you can do because it's considered your home. It's a different story.
Yeah, thank you for making that. That's a good explanation. I understand that better now. And then maybe this is diving too deep into it, but let's say a resident can't leave the facility. They are in a skilled nursing home and they can't leave the facility and they don't have a contract. Could they do a telehealth? Like, could they utilize a virtual, like UOAA's virtual ostomy clinic, or is that, sorry if that's too specific, but
no, skilled nursing is different than long-term care. I would say you have to have a nice conversation with, not the nurses' aides on the floor, not the nurses on the floor, but the admin people. Talk to the nursing supervisor or the medical director and see what they would be open to. Telehealth is probably, it's still pretty new, and I don't, they're probably carving the path as they go, these days. So it sounds like a great option to bring up.
Yeah. Okay. So it's always worth advocating. That's the bottom line here.
That's the thing.
That's the bottom line. I've had
some. Can't hurt to ask. Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Yeah. And so if you go through, if you are prepared and you know where you're having problems and you can explain it, that's where you're at an advantage. If you go to ask somebody, well, I'm having a problem and I don't know anything about it. Of course, you know something about it. You've lived with an ostomy for years. And if you go through the checklist, you're better prepared to explain exactly where you're having the problem. Because like we said, a lot of people understand what an ostomy is, but they really don't know what living day by day with an ostomy is. So, that's your job to help them, to educate them and help them understand. Let me just give a quick example. When I was a nurse and I worked in rehab, I understood like people with a spinal cord injury. I understood what the dynamics of spinal cord injury. I understood lots of things about it, but I didn't know until I really worked with patients and were in their homes what living with a spinal cord injury. So I really think you can translate that to living with an ostomy. It's a different story. There's lots more and people don't know that. And that's not any fault necessarily of educational preparation. It's a different thing to live with an ostomy. And you're the only one that knows your routine. And everybody's routine is different, way different. Boy, you talk to a room full of ostomists and you're going to get a room full of different routines. So
in a lot of long-term care facilities, they may go years between having patients that have an ostomy. So one of the things that they need is education. So now this is my old hat of being a Convatec sales rep, but still you as a patient can say to the director of nursing, boy, guys, it sure looks like could we get the, whatever manufacturer you use or the right manufacturer I use, can we get them in here to do some education for your staff?
Right.
Because everybody can use education. So that's just another alternative that you could say, I'll certainly help, but yet maybe we can get the rep in here to kind of do some education as well, bringing some samples in so they can play with them and that kind of thing. So that's just another idea of trying to get more help.
Steve, you want to take this one from Ivel? Hi, Ivel.
Hi, Ivel.
I recommend you confirm your instructions with. Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, Ivel. That's kind of still goes back to what I said of being your own advocate and being able to provide as much information as you can. And actually Ray Elvey just pretty much said one of the same things on his comments as well. So the more information that you can provide, and the better off you're going to be.
Wonderful. All right, the next one. As a single person, I would definitely recommend having a list of where you want to be treated and by whom, plus all the specialists to call. Oh, that's Liz, our moderator. That's a great point, Liz. Any other questions and comments? Julie. Steve, you want to take this one?
As we age and our skin changes, what challenges do aging people face with adhesion of phalanges? For example, are some products better for aging skin? I'm going to refer that one to Sue. I'm going to give that one to the nurse I have certainly opinions about that, but I want Sue to answer that as a professional.
I didn't think we were doing specific medical questions.
Well, no, we're not, and we're not going to. But the thing is, it's really trial and error and what works for you. So make yourself aware of products that each manufacturer has. Don't just, be open to looking at other manufacturers than the one you've used for the last 25 years. Because, that if your weight changes up or down, there's a difference in your abdominal plane, and that makes a difference about adhesion. I think there's a difference in adhesion when you're having chemotherapy. I mean, I've seen that a million times. Nobody documents it, but it's there. I don't know if there's one answer for that. It's trial and error, unfortunately. And a lot of people don't have patience with that, but that's the way it is.
So let's say that you are into a nursing home facility and you can't get to a support group. What are other ways that you can do to try to stay current? The Phoenix magazine, folks. That's one of the great things about the Phoenix magazine is read the ads of what manufacturers are coming up with new stuff, or the articles that Linda Coulter writes about different products that are on the market. If you can make it to a support group, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but that's part of what our support groups are for, is to be able to help, provide that information. But if you can't make a support group, the Phoenix magazine and then our website. We try to stay product neutral. We try not to endorse products. However, the Phoenix magazine can certainly, has great articles. And I tell people all the time, I've learned in 29 years, I've learned more from the Phoenix magazine than I have anything else, of just reading the articles and listening to people's questions and that kind of thing. And if last resort, send in your own question. to the Phoenix magazine. It'll take a long time to get a response, but you still may do that.
So we have two more questions. Raymond says, a comment, also have a copy of your medical history to include allergies and current medications. Yes, this is all important for sure. And Peggy Sue asks, how can I find a care buddy? So this is one of your tips that you were recommending, Jeanine.
That's a tricky thing. It should be someone relatively close to you, whether it's a spouse, a friend, a family member. I don't know if maybe there's someone in your church that you would trust. Again, it has to be someone that you know and trust. And again, as Sue said, it doesn't mean that person will actually provide the care and take over your routine.
Sorry.
It's just having that person know what your routine is. There's no like search on Google for finding an ostomy care buddy. It was more like some people define it as a care buddy. I consider it like in case of emergency person.
Gotcha.
On my phone I have my ice, and to me that's the person that I would designate as my care buddy.
Yes.
Well, it could be somebody from a support group, somebody that that is that you go to a group that you get to be friends with, or something along those lines, or somebody maybe that's a healthcare professional that you can refer to for help and that kind of thing as well. So there's just all kinds of ways of being able to try to find somebody to be able to help.
Yeah. Sue, did you have any thoughts on finding that care buddy? Or?
People are reluctant to do this. I mean, I remember in the hospital when I was teaching one particular lady, and I knew it was right over. She wasn't getting it. She wasn't hearing it. She was too anxious. So I said, you got to call a friend and get her in here so we can have 2 pairs of ears on this teaching. And she was reluctant, but I mean, you have to do it. You have to find somebody, and people are really reluctant to do it. Remember, they don't have to do the routine. They don't have to do your stuff, but they advocate for you. So get out of the comfort zone if you're feeling uncomfortable with it, because it's really important. I mean, who knows? Maybe you don't need an advocate, but boy, if you do, you need them.
Yep, that's the truth. So we had a lot of specific medical questions, like about dexterity and some of the other impairments that people can have as they age, vision and cognition and all those things that you touched on. And we're not going to dive into those tonight, but those are all really valid concerns. And there's lots of really specific tricks. And Jeanine and Sue both talked about how, getting to the right people, the right interdisciplinary team, the PTs, the OTs, the speech therapists, that is where you're going to find your expertise if you're dealing with something like a neurodegenerative disease where you're having issues with dexterity. And these are the things, like I said, that keep me up at night. I mean, I'm 44. I know I have hopefully a long way until I get to that stage of the game, but this is important stuff, and we never know what's around the corner. And so, as an ostomate, it's our goal to have the best quality of life that we can. So I love that connection that you guys did with getting people to the right professionals. So if you do have any existing questions that we didn't answer tonight that were specific, seek out those medical professionals that can answer those. And
same with dietitians for nutrition and dehydration issues. That's another professional too. That's a great one to seek out.
Yeah, that is. And I learned something on a previous Ostomy Academy that Amalia Carlin did on dietitian, that we're more prone to kidney stones as we age. That's something that I didn't know as ostomates from that chronic dehydration. So you can check out that on our recordings if you're interested in learning more. That's just an overall general nutrition. But yes, you can see a dietitian for geriatric needs or anything related to a specific diagnosis as you age. And then Jeanine also gave us her email, and if you want to directly correspond with her, she's open to that, and we'll put that in the chat. That's advocacy@ostomy.org. Are there any other questions we want to cover now? Any last thoughts from our wonderful speakers?
Well, I got a great segue for you here, Amy Lee. Did you see the question from Jim Moore, or the comment from Jim Morgan? Because I think this is something you and I are going to talk about anyway. However, attend the UOAA conference, a great place to get information in person. Now, there's a segue for you.
Thank you, Jim. I paid Jim. He's a paid sponsor here. Yeah, no, thank you, Jim. We will be in Orlando this summer, August 14th through the 16th. And there's going to be lots of curated information, educational sessions. There's going to be a free stoma clinic. There's going to be community time with other ostomates. Good stuff there. And yes, lots to learn. Thank you, Jim, for that plug. Any other comments? Thought I saw one pop up. It went away. All right. Any last thoughts or comments from our speakers? Sue, any last parting words to our group?
Well, no, I just say keep up on the ostomy.org. You know, it's always changing. There's much more education and information on there all the time, and it changes. So keep going back and looking. It's really been all updated. It's wonderful.
Thank you. I don't have anything further.
I couldn't agree with you more, Sue. Again, it goes back to advocating for yourself, trying to stay on top of what's going on. And obviously I'm biased, and I make no bones about that. Ostomy.org is a great reference piece of material. There's all kinds of information on there.
And there's lots of advocacy stuff.
Yeah,
not just about
the advocacy section.
Absolutely. I can say this. I mean, Jeanine and her advocacy committee are doing an outstanding job. I mean, they have done so much in the time I've been around this organization that Jeanine's been here. So they're always out there working for you, trying to make things better. So I just thank you tremendously, Jeanine, for everything you and your committees have done. Anybody that's in New Jersey area, we're having a golf outing on June the 2nd, I believe it is a fundraiser. Guys, you know, we're like anybody else. We need money to try to help keep the organization going. The cost of freight to ship stuff is astronomical, and you know, we send out the nutrition guides and the new patient guides all for free. So I mean as you well know, nothing's free. It obviously costs us to do that. So anything that you can do to help from the donation standpoint, the spring letter went out, you know, appeal went out not too long ago. If you could help from that standpoint, you know, we greatly appreciate it, because the people in the office work their tails off. The 800 number, I mean, what are we up to? Something like 250 calls a day or something like that. I mean, it's incredible the amount of phone calls we get. So obviously we're doing something right, but we need help to be able to try to help keep the organization going and that kind of thing. So, and hopefully things like this that we put on for free, the Ostomy Academy, we do them 4 times a year, quarterly, and hopefully, you know, they're valuable. I feel they are, because I see you read the comments that you guys are making. So obviously I think that they're helping, but that's all part of the learning process, is trying to educate yourself and learn. And you never know when you're going to pick up something that's going to be valuable, and times change. So just stay with us.
And if they want to go back, don't forget they can. This is going to be recorded, and this also will be on ostomy.org. So you might want to watch it again, and all of a sudden you think of another question. Again, you're more than welcome to email me, and I can chat with Sue and get back to you on a response. So again, my email address is advocacy@ostomy.org.
Wonderful. Well, I will close this out. V-Pain Workouts. He wants to know where he can find an ostomy meeting in Columbus, Ohio. There is an ostomy finder on our website. So you can go to ostomy.org, and on the very homepage, there's a tab that you can click for to find an ostomy support group in your area, and you can enter your zip code and find one there. There's a great one in Columbus, V-Pain Workouts. So,
and they don't always have to be in person. Remember, we have online ones as well. So
that's right. Oh yeah, we put the link in there. Great. So yeah, I just want to finish this out by thanking our speakers tonight, Jeanine and Sue. This is wonderful information. I will be showing this at my support group here in Denver. Great information, great resources, wonderful links. Really can't say enough. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And then thanks to the behind the scene magicians, Ed Fuller and Liz Hiles, and thanks to Steve for always putting up with me and co-hosting. I love this. And especially a big thank you to all of our viewers tonight for participating and showing up. And we'll see you at the next one. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.